Welcome back to the Movie Trailer Reviews podcast on the MTR Network. It's Kriss and I got Phenom here, and we are here to review a movie that's 40 years people waiting 40 years for. We're here to review Wonder Woman. Before she was Wonder Woman, she was Diana, Princess of the Amazons, trained warrior. When a pilot crashes and tells of conflict in the outside world, she leaves her home to fight a war. To end all wars, discovering her full powers and true destiny. Starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Robin Wright, and directed by Patty Jenkins. And so basically this is the fourth film in the DC cinematic universe, and their best one. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just like, this is one of those films that, it's, to me, it's head and shoulders above all the other films they've done so far. And it was well worth the wait. And they beat back a lot of the rumors and a lot of the problems people thought they were going to have. And here we are. So, Phenom, what do you think of this film?
I mean, for the most part, I think it's DC's safest film. And I think that's given the fact that they've just tried to go so above and beyond the reach of people's either understanding, care, or just patience with the other films, that I feel like Wonder Woman is just extremely straightforward. And it doesn't really diverge in any direction. It is a basic story. It's a basic origin story done to a T very safely. And honestly, I think the only real issue with the film is the fact that you can tell Zack Snyder is producing parts of this movie, and I didn't fully I did not fully appreciate some of the things, the very bravado-ish things he did with her character during some of the like self-exploration scenes, I guess, or like realization scenes.
See, I don't think he had very much influence on this. I know he's listed producer, but I don't think he has very much. I don't think he did very much on this at all.
I don't think story wise he did anything, but I think when they got in the editing room to actually put in the effects and et cetera, I truly believe either him or his wife were there, because Zack Snyder does things with like. Zack Snyder does things in his action films, sometimes, or just films in general, where I'm just kind of like, why are you putting so much emphasis and color into this like scene right now? Why are you just making this so big for kind of like Jesus Christ-ish for no reason? And it's just happening. And I feel like that's just his style. The slow motion sliding and the fight scenes, they are awesome. But that's Zack Snyder. Like, that's been his style since that terrible fucking movie with the chicks. And those were the best parts of that film. Like, I don't fault those scenes. I think the action and the fighting scenes in this joint work very well to separate DC from Marvel as far as what type of action you can expect. It was just some scenes that I just felt like he tried to make them really, really big and kind of like force them on you.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it's him.
I don't think it was Patty Jenkins, because I could tell what stuff felt like it was her, and the other stuff just felt like Snyder. It felt like y'all talk about the marches scene, but that some of these scenes, and that's what they felt like to me. It felt like I was being forced to just see how big of a moment this is, and I felt like it was overdone. I felt like he just overdid that part, and I feel like that was just him. Like, I remember just looking at it was like specifically just two scenes. It's not like the whole film. It really is at the very, very end. And I just remember looking at him and I was thinking, my God, was all of that really necessary?
I also think you got to think about it. I think that there's similarities between, and I think I know what you're saying. I actually don't think it's him. There are similarities they did between this film and Man of Steel. Like, Man of Steel is really over top with the Jesus savior like imagery. Like it is like to the part it's really hard to. You get some of that same feel here, and both Wonder Woman and Man of Steel track along the same way. And this is definitely a story thing. I think they do it way better story wise here, and they land it way better. So I'm not exactly sure that it's. I don't know. I think it's because of the way both Diana and Clark are presented as characters. Period. You almost kind of have to do that with them. I mean, the basically the original idea they're going here with Wonder Woman is, you know, she has to make a decision of whether she wants to save humanity or not, and that's always going to lead to having those savior kind of imagery. So I'm not sure if it's a Zack Snyder thing or if it's just the characters you kind of landed in dealing with that you kind of have to put it in there. Like I remember, I'm not
sure we're talking about the same thing.
What scenes are you talking? I don't think it's a spoiler.
I don't want to. Like, say that's the thing. I don't want to spoil it, but it is at the end with the final fight. It is at the end, and it really is like a real. It is like an epiphany moment for her, or realization of what she is and what she's becoming. Right. And I thought the way he did it, it reminded me, and it's done better than this, but I kind of had the same feeling watching it. It's like that moment where Jean Grey in that last X-Men film kind of goes Phoenix-y. Mm-hmm. And it just looks really bad. Like it looks like a really bad Windows background screensaver. The way they do it in the X-Men film. In this one, it looks better, but I still felt like it was just like forced. And I don't understand, like, because in the rest of the film, you know, Diana really is like this humble, wide-eyed, like doughy-tailed, fierce Amazonian warrior out to save everybody. Like that is her goal, is to just, I need to save everybody. And they make it a point to put in the script for her to say women and children a lot. Like rarely does she say, I need to save these men. Most of the time it's like, I need to save these women and children. Yeah. Which I appreciated.
Yeah. The feminist messaging in this film is there. But it's not hit over your head with it, but you see it. Like I said, it seems like that, the way she's talking, like you get it. And I appreciate the fact that they're not saying that it would have been wrong, but like I watched Supergirl. I remember that first season of Supergirl, like they're constantly hitting your head over the head with it. You're going, all right, at some point you guys need to stop talking about it and just start doing it. In this film, they just do it. Like you see it, you're like, oh, okay.
It's different in this, I think, because there's not a world war going on in Supergirl. Right. But in this film, Diana is literally being introduced to mankind, like legit being introduced to mankind, and experiencing all of the treacherous evil that humanity has brought about this earth that they have been, you know, the Amazonians have been protected from in Themyscira. And I'm watching it, and I don't think that she could beat you over the head with it, because her character specifically, spotlight shown upon her, is the only one that seems to be looking at everything, like the whole picture, and not just looking at it, you know, with tunnel vision. Like, yeah, it's people dying, but we got to win the war. We got to win the war. We got to win the war. And so we're just going to walk past these people that are being bombed, or these people that are being shot, or these people that are starving and dying, these children that are being left alone literally on battlefields. And she's the only one that just stops and takes note of all of this and is like, I know you guys want to win this war, but what about the people that need help? That's why I don't think it could possibly be taken, like the perspective can't, unless you're just being an asshole, in my opinion, the perspective can't be that you're being beat over the head with this.
Right.
Because she is the only person that seems to care about everybody.
Well, I think
and not just war.
Well, I think the reason why they do that, and I think it was a brilliant move. And again, I think this is how they kind of solve some of the problem, because it kind of goes on the same route that they try to do with Man of Steel. All right. Again, even without, they're not a war in Man of Steel, but they're trying to go along the same route of, here you have this person who has all this power and the power to save humanity, and they have to make a constant choice. There's that scene in the church. There's the scene with Clark and his father, where obviously the asshole scene where it's like tells him, well, maybe you shouldn't have saved the kids on the bus. And there's another scene where he's making a decision, does he want to come out when Zod has called him out, and he's talking to the guy in the church, the priest in the church. The difference with the way they do it in Wonder Woman is they basically make, because Diana has been raised on Themyscira and has been cut off from the world and been raised, believing a certain thing and believing that no innocent person should suffer and that love is the answer to everything. Because she is raised that way, when she comes to our world, if you will, she has a certain naivete to her that she believes that, yeah, you can do this. And like you say, Chris Pine, other people, they're literally fighting the war. They're tunnel vision on this idea of, hey, listen, yeah, in order to save, in order to win the war and to save millions, we might let, a few hundred here suffer, and that is mankind's view on how to deal with things. And Diana's the way they wrote this Wonder Woman is, she comes in with this idea of that she doesn't accept that. Like, she doesn't believe that. She doesn't believe that, you win the war by sacrificing a few here. You must save everyone on the way to doing it, and no, it's not her answer. And that's what makes her, better than not just the men in the film, but all of mankind. And she's on, and so the entire film is basically her journey of realizing that, being tempted with the idea that, no, you can't save everybody as you go along the way, and her trying to reject that. And it makes it's still the savior theme that you get from Man of Steel. It's done better because you understand. You understand, again, with the war setting, you understand why at some point she'll go, maybe you guys don't deserve my help. Maybe you guys don't deserve this. Maybe you did bring it on yourselves. Maybe you guys are evil. Like, you understand that battle she has in herself, because from her point of view, she's right. She's like, yeah, that does sound kind of horrible. Like, logically it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, well, why can't you save everyone? Why can't you save those people over there? Why can't you make time to save the innocent men and women? I mean, and not just men and women, children. There's a point in the film where she sees like these people are trying to escape the battlefield, and there's a horse stuck in the mud, and they're literally trying to beat this horse to get out of the mud, and she's just like, that's not how you do that. And there's this innocence about Diana and her view, because again, this is the origin. There's not really an origin story, but this is her at the beginning. Her origin of her coming to understanding of, her introduction to mankind. And to be honest, man, mankind, we're some assholes.
I mean, I get that it's her. I get that she's naive, right? And you're gonna be naive if you haven't been around people that are doing people shit, right? If you haven't been around people that are doing people shit, and you've only been around people that are trying to do right and preparing for the ultimate battle whenever it is to arrive, then yeah, you're going to be naive when you're introduced to this other world of just shenanigans and mankind. But I think I hate to say, I don't hate to say. For me, I don't feel like it was an innocence thing with her. I think with her, she saw it in its raw form, where everybody else is kind of doing a smoke and mirrors play or clouding people's judgment to make things that they're doing that are trash seem right. She's looking past it, and she's seeing right. She's seeing that the emperor has no clothes on, and everybody's like, no, you just got to look at him from this angle, and he is actually covered. And she's like, no, that's not the case. Like, specifically when she went into that parliament meeting, and she basically hit them over the head with, hey man, this shit that y'all are doing, this isn't self-sacrifice. You motherfuckers are sacrificing other people selfishly, and you're hiding here. And I like those moments in the film because I don't think that she's coming into the situation innocently, because she's the baddest motherfucker in this film. I think she's coming into the situation looking at it going, y'all are full of shit, yo. Like, y'all claim y'all about winning this war, and y'all claim y'all want to run up and do this, and you got a plan, and you care about yourselves and your people, and you're fighting for your country and all of this shit. And it's heavy military in this. And she gets stuck in this situation, and they're treating her like she ain't shit because she a woman. They're talking circles around her. Even Chris Pine's character is talking circles around her and misleading her to get his own initiatives accomplished, while she's straightforward on the path of, yeah, I see you doing all that bullshit over in the corner that you planning and all of that nonsense. I get that. But when the fuck we going to war? And as an audience member watching this film, you're kind of thinking the same thing. Like, you like seeing her being introduced to people in London and the culture, and them trying to kind of blend her in and make her fit. But you're also watching it going, man, y'all stop trying to break this woman and put her on the battlefield. And the film doesn't really waste much time.
No, it's very straight
to the battlefield. Like, watch her fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is the other thing too. The pacing of this film is really well, and they have there's smaller action scenes in between, but they have three big action sequences, and there's not spoilers because you see bits and pieces of them in the trailers. You have obviously the Amazons against the Germans on the beach. You have her basically crossing the battlefield of the No Man Land. You see that in the trailer as well, in the trench warfare thing, and then obviously her final fight with the enemy of this film. It's like you get three really big moments, and again, there's smaller moments inside this film. Like, it's done really well to keep you from ever getting that moment where, like with BVS, where you get to the middle and you're kind of dragging. Or I think the other problem with BVS is you're waiting for you wait through at least 3/4 of the film to finally get Batman versus Superman. It's like there's none of that here. You're not, just sitting there going, I'm waiting for the next battle. It happens pretty quickly, and the time in between is spent pretty well because, like you said, you deal with these moments of everyone kind of, dismissing her and she has,
her around,
right, and yeah,
to the film. Shuffling her around.
Right. It's funny you mentioned Chris Pine's character. He plays Steve Trevor in this film. When I wrote my review for him, I basically said he basically plays the well-intentioned man in this, which is, oh, well, yeah, I'm a man, you're a woman, I'll do my best to protect you. She doesn't need his protection. And this idea of he knows better because that's what he is. It's like, and while it's well-intentioned and he doesn't mean any offense by it, it's still in some ways offensive to her, and I think they did, again, I think that's the subtlety of, having a woman director to make sure that they could pull that off, because she, Steve Trevor's not made as a bad guy. And obviously, comic book, wise, people know, there's obviously, a relationship thing between him and Diana in the film, but you don't feel like he's a bad guy, or that he's like, oh, well, you're not a nice guy. No, he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. But at the same time, he still has some patriarchy in him. He still got some sexism in him. The way
he's a man.
He's a man. Like, and they do a good job of showing that.
He's just a man. He's another man.
Exactly.
His intentions might be good, but he's a man, and that just needs to be fucking understood. It's just, that's how it goes with her character. I like the little romantic scenes that they did. They didn't feel forced. They felt organic for the film, and I like what they did with his character, because he was having these epiphanies along the way,
exactly
the way she was. And what I think one of my favorite scenes in the film probably is, everybody's gonna be like, oh man, that middle action scene, is crazy, and it is. But I think one of her strongest moments in the film is when they show up somewhere and Chris Pine tries to step in and stop her from doing something that she wants to do. And she literally gives him, man, get the fuck out of my way. And she just shoves him. Because all I kept thinking in that scene was, bruh, you can't keep her from doing what she wants to do, right? And literally the next scene, the next frame, is her proving my point, shoving him across the room.
Well, that's the other thing too. That's they do a good job of, you know, the evolution of Steve Trevor to understanding and coming along to Diana's point and her view and understanding, and like you said, basically understanding that I'm not gonna be able to stop her. So either I'm going to abandon her or I'm gonna be there to help. Because like you said, there's a moment when, you know, she kind of blames him for something. He's basically on some. He could have gone like, I thought they were going to diverse the film. I thought he was going to go and do his own thing. She was going to do her own thing, and then eventually come together. But he basically comes back and is like, he doesn't come out and say it. He's just like, she's right. So I just kind of need to fall back and just follow her lead and do what she's doing and do the best I can because she was right. So yeah. And they do a really good job. Another thing that I thought was really well is, and again, they do a good job of also, again, not just making it so it's just heavy-handed savior thing. There's a moment in there where they introduce some other characters that are with Chris Pine. You see him in the original photo you saw in BVS with the other characters in there. There's Samir, Charlie, and then listen, just real quick, a small negative and a small pet peeve that they need to stop doing, because this is like the second time I've seen this. When you guys get like a Native American character or Asian character, can you give them a name and not the chief?
Bruh.
Like this is like when we saw King Arthur and they called that motherfucker Kung Fu George. Like, guys, come on. Like, just small.
I got a question where the chief even came from. I liked his little segment where he was talking to her and like she started to kind of understand how man operates.
Right.
You know, and it's very confusing, but it also makes sense if you understand them. And she starts to understand. But yeah, when his character showed up, I just was kind of like, wait, man, if he throws a motherfucking tomahawk, I swear to God. Don't do this to me, Patty Jenkins. So, don't have that man throw a tomahawk.
So, and I think that that entire group there, like Samir's the one that says that the most, is because Syed is just given more and more to do, and he's funny. But that entire little group, there's not really a lot they expand on, and I'll get into that more later. But anyway, so you get this little group, right? And so the chief is the smuggler. Charlie is their sniper who doesn't do any sniping, but we'll get into that later.
Bruh. Okay, so we both agree on that, right?
Right. He ain't sniped nobody. And then
his lineup is good, but his clutch game is terrible.
Right. And then
he ain't got no follow through.
Right. And then Samir is like their spy that lied to. So there's at one point where Diana's kind of like, she's kind of disgusted. She's like, so we're going with a smuggler, and then we're going, we're going with a smuggler, a killer, and a liar. And Chris Pine his character kind of turns to him and goes, so you have a problem with them? Do you have a problem with me? Because I'm kind of all three. And he kind of breaks it down, and you see that again, while she's right in this idea of, hey, we need to save these people, we need to save innocents, you can't just ignore this. You also see that she doesn't see the whole picture, that people are more than what you initially think of them. So there's a little learning on both sides here. There's obviously, see Trevor and others learning that, hey, listen, we can't, if there's time, there's always time to save innocents. But there's also a learning of Diana where she learns that it's not always black and white, right? That it's not always just good versus evil. And there are people that are in the gray, and that people that are in the gray, they can choose whether they want to be evil or not. Because basically the other thing too in this film is, and it goes to I think another weaker parts of the film, her belief is that the reason behind the war and what's going on here is that Ares is behind everything, and that Ares has caused mankind to break out into war, and he's fueling all of this stuff, and that's what's going on. So her idea is that, hey, once I kill Ares, mankind will go back to loving. And so I think that part of her journey is also understanding that even if you get rid of Ares, even if this happens, mankind is complicated. It's not just that there are a bunch of mindless beings that are being influenced by by Ares that, hey, sometimes there are bad people that do bad things on their own. Ares might be a helping hand and a guiding hand, and might be influencing here and there, but he's not the root cause of why people kill each other. And so she had to. I think that's where part of that innocence comes in. That she doesn't. She's on an island, a warrior princess island, but there is no war with them. They're training for battle, but they're all all the Amazons are basically family. So they're warriors, but there is no war, and so she has a hard time understanding that concept of two people just not really liking each other, and other fellow beings just killing one another. She doesn't have that concept, and so she has to unlearn that. And I think that's another interesting journey they did with this film, and it just makes it interesting there. So really enjoyed that. But yeah, like I was saying, one of the bad things I think is, and I'm gonna say a bad thing, although I don't think this is bad, but I bring this up because it's something that's been brought up about Marvel films all the time. I'll be honest, man. The villains in this film don't really matter.
I think it's the way they handled the villain. And I think that was one of my biggest disappointments. They had a very strong villain. Their execution with the villain was the problem.
It could be, yeah.
I think they spent, and I think I understand how the frames that I'm talking about, the scenes that I was talking about earlier that I kind of didn't vibe with, that I felt like Zack Snyder had a hand in. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're great comic book, like art. I think they're great art in like a comic, mm-hmm. right? I think they work on a panel. I think when you shove them into a film like this, at the end during that huge fight, I was kind of looking at him going, hey man, can we get back to the fucking fight though? Because the couple of things that were happening during that fight were so big and so superhero-ish. Mm-hmm. And then they would break away from that to jump to another one of these, awakening panels. And I think that's what bothered me, because I feel like Zack Snyder does that. That's why I said I think it felt like the Martha scene or the Batman flashbacks for people, where you're like, why the fuck are we having a flashback right now? Why aren't we getting back to the story or getting back to the fight or having a fight, period? Well, they were legit. There was legit a fight happening, and the parts of the fight that showed these two powerful beings fighting were awesome. And then they would stop, and it would be this very long, drawn out panel. And I still don't know how I feel about the speedster scene. I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh,
how that was produced. I really am torn.
I'll be honest,
and I feel like I need to do it again, but I feel like it was done better in Man of Steel when old girl went off on the army.
Oh, absolutely. I thought the same thing. Diana has speed, but that scene, here's the thing. This movie is 2 hours and 21 minutes. I would say the weakest part of this film is the final fight. To me, hands down, that is the weakest part of the film. And going back and thinking, I'm like you, out to see it again. I now see where you're getting with the Zack Snyder type imagery of that final scene. Because the other thing too, you know what it is? That entire final fight is almost entirely CG.
Yep.
And I think that's where it comes in at. I think that's where the problem comes in. So even if it's not Zack Snyder, and maybe it's his production company is doing the CG for that kind of stuff, or they're using the same production company they've used for all the stuff for the CG. And I always find this funny when people say, "Oh, well, no, DC films, their CG looks so much." I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm not sure their all CG scenes look as good as the Marvel all CG scenes.
They don't. That scene where little Diana is falling, that looked horrendous, and it looked laughably bad.
Yeah,
I understand what they thought they were doing.
Well, you know what? The other thing too, and it goes back to something I've said before. I think they've now confirmed that the budget wasn't 150, and hey, that's a lot of money, but for what they're trying to do in some of these scenes, 150 is not enough. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
It probably isn't.
It's not.
Probably is.
The budget for, I think, Man of Steel was 225, and that's why those CGs in those scenes looks amazing. Like you can hardly tell CG. In some of these scenes, you're right. Like I'm not gonna lie, if not for everything else being so good and that the little Diana being so adorable, that would have taken me out of the film. And that's the very, very beginning of the film. So you gotta
almost like I had to remind myself that critics had this film had 96% of critics thought this movie was the bomb. That's where I had to pull from when that girl jumped off that cliff in the very beginning.
Yeah,
and they showed that fall scene. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah,
but then they had the beach fight with the Amazonians, and I was like, "Okay, I'm back in."
That brought it back. Yeah.
I like the way they're using slow motion here, and there's a whole lot of slow motion. But I feel like in these films, in DC films specifically, because these characters are supposed to be so powerful and can move so fast, you're going to need these slow motion scenes, not just for like for impact, and so we can just see how awesome a punch or a kick looks. I felt like the action scene in the middle of the film is one of the baddest action, like bad as in dope, baddest action scenes I have seen in one of these DC films and some of the Marvel films.
Oh, hands down.
Like,
There's
a moment where she just straight knees a motherfucker through a building, and I was like, "Yo!"
And you seen it in the trailer. They've shown that in the trailer. Like, they do a really good job with that extended scene there. And that's why, like I said, the end of the film kind of feels like I'm sorry, like to me, the middle fight with her going through no man's land and taking on these German soldiers, these nameless and faceless German soldiers, like that entire scene right there is like the pinnacle of their fight scenes. And so when you get to that final battle and you're supposed to be having her facing off against Ares, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for me. Because it just you've gotten so high.
Colors, man. There was just so much red and orange and yellow. It just was.
Well,
it kind of threw me. I was like, why are we doing all of this? And then they did that damn speedster scene, and that's why I was kind of like, oh boy,
yeah.
I feel like this is all Snyder who did this, because up to this point, the film was greatness.
Well, you know what it is? There's a personality, and there is a realness to her fights and all their other fights. Like even the fights on the beach with the Amazons. Like the Amazons have their own fighting style that is very unique to them and is very different. They do a lot of spinning around. They jump around. Like the way they fight is very unique.
All that game is top notch. Their bow game is top notch.
Exactly. All that goes away when you had this final fight, because it's just none of those elements are there anymore, and I think that's what happens. It's like they go into the CG and it loses all the heart that they have spent all the film building up on. And again, to me it's not enough to knock the entire film for, because listen, you give me 2 hours and I say 2 hours and 15 minutes of good film, and you kind of flounder on the last 5. And there's some good emotional moments there. There's some interesting things that do happen there. So it's not enough for me to go, oh, fuck the film. But it's still, you're right. You go back to there and you look at that stuff and you're like, yeah, that's just, stay away from that. Like, everything else is good. Don't do more of that. Like,
please don't bring that shit back. And that wasn't like, Chris, and this, I'm not going to spoil this, but you know what I'm talking about. There is a scene where she literally puts something down.
Oh, God.
And I was like, why the fuck did you just put that down? And I was watching the scene and I was thinking, I understand you don't want to do what you were about to do with it, but you can do something else with it.
Right.
And that's not what happens. She's just like, fuck it. Right. And just tosses shit to the side. Yeah. I tell you who saved that at the end of that film, though. The Chris Pine moments at the end of the film
absolutely
saved the end. Like, if you have an issue with the action scenes at the end of the film, I don't think you'll have an issue with the writing.
Yeah. And
the romantic moments between Chris and Diane at the very end. Like, it's gonna be some tears. I'm already waiting to look on my Facebook
that
timeline, see tears. I know Shanna gonna cry. I'm just waiting to see Shanna tears pop up on my timeline.
That's what again, that like you said, that's what saves. That's why, you know, it doesn't bother me too much. Like it's some of the stuff is bad, but then you get the actual story beats and you get the actual moment, and then you know Chris Pine's big moment, which honestly, again, goes with one of the problems. Like throughout the entire film, the way they handle Chris Pine's character is he doesn't take away from Diana, but then in the final fight, and again, it's not story wise. She doesn't. They don't try like she clearly is the focus of that final stuff, but it's his moments that really make and save that the final part of the film there.
The writing is good. Like the writing for the dialogue
absolutely
is really good, and the way they did it, the way they delivered the lines,
absolutely
was really, really good. Like it really will hit you in the heart. I thought that was done extremely well, and I think the way they handled the other parts of the film of, you know, going from the young Diana and, you know, her home to the London, despite looking kind of like damp and moist and just they add comedy to it to kind of liven things up, where they don't actually liven things up with light. They do it with dialogue and comedy, which I thought was a good thing. And then when they get into the trenches, they literally get into the trenches, but they keep the comedy and they add the action back in.
So one of the complaints about the DCU has been the fact that the lack of color, the drabness of some of the things, and you know when you're in Themyscira, it's like literally the brightest and the most color you'll see in the DCU in forever, right? I mean, when we did Suicide Squad, we were like, you know, there's that time when they turn the movie, it's like they turn the lights on in the movie. At the end of the movie, you're like, all of a sudden you get color, like what the fuck? In this movie, the way they handle it, they literally show you like when she makes a comment, you know, when they get into London, she's like, Chris Pine's character's like, Steve Trevor's like, welcome to London. This is where she's like, it's dreadful. It looks, and you know what? You're like, she's right. This is disgusting. It look, you know, and so it's like
it's not for everybody, but I feel like that was a jab at people who have issues with the dark tone of these films.
And even like when you're in the trench warfare, it's like it's supposed to feel this drabness, but then you offset it with the color in her uniform and the way that it stands out and the way it pops and that it is different. You know, you have those scenes in there that I think they do really well.
And then at the end, I get it now. And then at the end, Zack Snyder was like, "Oh, all they wanted was colors. Okay, I know what to do." And he does what he does. And I was like, "Nope, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it, Zach."
I need to look into it because now I see what it is. I really think what it is they're using the same effects studio, and so the effects all look the same. And this is why when
did her colors a lot in this movie, especially at the end. Mm-hmm. If you pay attention, they are using the Wonder Woman. They use the Wonder Woman theme song a whole lot.
Yeah,
but they use the Wonder Woman colors towards the end with that last battle, and just the battlefield scene in general is right there in the background. Despite how dark it may look at the sky. Those little subtle things that they did, the director of photography, which would be Patty Jenkins and whoever her cinematographers were, they handled that extremely well.
Right.
So I appreciated that.
Going back to the theme of villains, I mean, they kind of do a redirect, and I don't know if you did you figure out who Ares was? I figured out pretty early.
Of course.
Yeah, I figured. There's a lot of they try a lot of misdirection, but if you watch enough films and you're just aware, it's not a shock of who it is. Like it really isn't. Now I bring this up because, and again, just the way with everything else going on, the way they handle the villains in this film and the misdirection trying to do it, it doesn't work because I think the reason why the misdirection doesn't work is you don't spend enough time with the potential candidates, and so they don't matter and they don't feel like they're important or that. I don't know. It's just
I know what it. I know for me, I know what it is. So for you to have and you, I think you can track this by going back and watching films where you really like the villains. Mm-hmm. I think to have a good villain, you need to give your villain a story.
Right.
And you need to develop them. Some of these films, they don't develop the villains. They just bring them in. And they think because they make a villain super strong and super big and
super evil,
somewhat terrifying,
right?
Yeah, that, you'll be like, this is a really, really good fucking villain. I understand why people think I understand why Fantastic Four is a terrible fucking movie. I do. But their writing for Doom in that movie, to me, is still dope because they developed that character. You follow that dude through the whole film, and when he finally becomes Doom, after you see what the fuck happens to him, you get it. And you get why he's a badass son of a bitch that got stuck in a terrible, terrible ass movie. Okay? So when I'm watching this film, and I figured out in the first third of the fucking film who the villain was, I was like, I see how this is gonna go.
Right.
But they didn't develop the character, and it's weird because they talk about the villain so much.
Right.
If they do beat you over the head with anything in its film, it's the villain's name. Right. They beat it from the beginning of the film. This is the evilest motherfucker they're talking about. So you would think there would be more interaction. That is one thing that I think they missed that I was looking forward to. I was waiting for her to leave Themyscira so she could start experiencing this villain.
Right.
You know, I thought I was waiting for that, and that didn't happen. It was all just, he was the boogeyman.
Right. You only get the confrontation there, and that the confrontation literally happens at the final fight, and I'm like, yeah, you can't really do a villain. That's not gonna be a last. And again, I think that just like what happens in some Marvel films, and I think that they took that. There's the one thing they took from Marvel that I think still works, and you can still do. You can get away with that when your movie becomes about the journey and not the confrontation between the hero and the villain, which is what they do here, and so it works because of that. So yeah, and I think that's what happens, and that's why I'm okay with it. Like, the villain is weak, but I'll be honest, by the time we get to the end of the film, I'm like, oh, that's right, you do have to have a conversation between her and Ares, because you're like,
it's not over. Clearly, he's gonna show up at some point,
right?
I feel like if there was any moment where you needed to use something that might not have felt like a flashback, but was kind of a mind fuck type scene, I feel like Ares was the perfect villain to do it with.
Right.
With her. Because since he's such a boogeyman, like, for her to distort her reality and her understanding of mankind would have been a great way to push her growth in this movie as well. Because that's essentially what he tries to do at the end. And it was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
You just gonna pull out your watch and start swinging it back and forth like a pendulum?
Yeah, I was like,
that's really what we're doing?
They could have easily, because again, you have these big set pieces in between. You have the journey in between. It would have been so easy to put in scenes where you have, it doesn't take a lot. Just show scenes of Ares kind of trying to influence Diana throughout this and not succeedting. And then you get to that final confrontation, and you get his final attempt at tempting her by revealing who he is, who he's been the entire time. Like, there's a way they could have done that, and they didn't. I think it was a missed opportunity. It could have made it so that the villain wasn't weak in here, and not even just that. I mean, you have, even these characters in their other form. I won't say who was Ares in here, but you have, General Lindorf, played by Danny Huston, and Elena Ayanya. And Naya, who plays Dr. Moreau, the woman that has basically the little mask on that you see throughout the film. She does almost absolutely nothing. Like, she is supposed to be the chemist, but they actually almost do absolutely nothing with her. Like, they just feel like these characters there's not enough they do with the characters there to make them feel like they're a threat. I don't know. That was one of the missed opportunities. The other missed opportunity, and this one bothers me way less, but I want to get this out there now because I know it's going to come up and it's going to be people talking about this. I even seen some article trying to explain it away. with them. You know, there are black women and women of color in this film as Amazons. They were smart enough, and I think this happened after they got the little blowback last year for it, to make sure that one of the speaking roles for one of the Amazons was a black woman. She does say something, so there's that, because that would have been a problem. I'm gonna tell you right now, they would not have been able to be defended if they had, you know, put these black women in the film and none of them spoke.
I mean, they did try to show that one of the strongest or the strongest Amazonian was a black woman.
Yeah, Anne Wolf's character as Artemis. But they don't do anything with them. There's not a lot there. Now, the defense of that is, and I know this might not, again, I can't speak for black women. I'm hopefully they'll have Joy on the, you know, for spoiler review, and I'm going to see if Shannon and the Doctor want to also do their review of this film. It doesn't take away from the fact that the roles are very small, and if you blink, you miss them. But I will say this: that is true almost all of the Amazons. There are only 2 Amazons outside of Diana that get any kind of significance at the beginning of this film. And once she leaves Paradise Island, once she leaves Themyscira, the Amazons are gone. Like, there's no more. I don't even think there's flashbacks to the Amazons at that point. All right? So it's a very limited amount of time you spend with the Amazons. And so, and again, maybe that doesn't excuse the lack of, you know, women of color in the film. But I just want to say it's a pretty, in terms of the Amazons themselves, is a pretty limited amount of time that you're with them anyway. And I think that going forward, if they do it, when they do a sequel for this film, they should definitely put some more focus on that, because there's a lot of potential they can do with all of the Amazons. Because you barely get names of some of them. Like, there's really only 2 that matter, and there's a whole entire island of Amazons that you are pretty much left untouched, that you can do a lot with. So that's something that, you know, I know some people will mention there, and I think it's a valid point. And I think because the film really isn't about the Amazons, it's just about Diana, they had to make a choice. And they probably could have added another 10, 15 minutes to the film, but I don't know. I think the way it is now, it works. But I think definitely going forward, they have some potential there, you know, because you definitely have more black women in that film than you have in any film we've seen before, whether there's Marvel or other DC films. They're not doing a lot, but they're there, and so you can tell their story, and you would get a lot of money off of that.
I did like the fact that she had the Zod ability of using her powers, meaning that, like, when Zod came to Earth in Man of Steel and he realized, holy fuck, I have fucking superpowers. I'm strong. I shoot lasers out my eyes. I'm extremely fast. I can be a fucking god. Her realization moment of that is in the very beginning. And they really don't spend a whole lot of time on that after that. She kind of just starts doing super shit along the journey towards the end of the film, where she's doing really super shit in that missed opportunity of a boss fight. And I kind of wonder, at certain powers that we know Wonder Woman has, if they were actually showing that she was using them because she understood how to use them, or she realized that she could do it, or if it was just part of, like, her awakening.
Yeah, that's one thing.
That those powers were happening.
Yeah, that's one thing they don't do either. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not. It's interesting, and again, I think they learned some lessons from Man of Steel in that you never get an explanation of what some of her powers are.
Not at all.
You see her do some things, like, you see that she can heal quickly. I don't know. It's a very quick scene at the beginning. A very quick scene at the very, very beginning of the film where you're like, oh, she heals really quickly. And nobody, there's no attention really brought to it. It's literally a throwaway scene.
Supposed to be fixing her,
right?
Sees the wound and goes, huh.
That's interesting. Like, really, the person picture literally goes, huh, that's interesting.
Like, he had all his tools and everything ready, about to get to work, and then she just left.
Right, and I'm not sure that overall it was a bad trade. Like, it might have been a good, because it's like the problem with Man of Steel a little bit is they kind of also try to over-explain everything that Woody can do. So there is no explanation really of what her powers are and what she can do. There's that. The other thing too, I think this goes to the character that is Wonder Woman, that is also going to give it, that makes it in a way makes this a little bit easier film for critics and fans to get behind is Wonder Woman as a character doesn't have the same morality issues you have with Batman and Superman. And what I mean by that is, if Diana kills somebody, nobody's gonna lose their shit. All right. Remember, with Man of Steel, there was Superman doesn't kill; he snapped Zod's neck. In Batman vs Superman, it's like, oh, Batman was killing people; he doesn't kill. You don't have Diana kills. She's a warrior. She was raised to be a warrior. She is a warrior. If Diana ends up stabbing somebody and killing somebody, nobody's gonna say anything. So in a way, you get a bit of freedom in the morality clause, because again, and I understand it. And I'm not saying you should go away from this. With Batman and Superman, their their limit and their line sometimes doesn't make any sense, right? And it becomes a problem, and it becomes a limitation when you go to try to tell this story. You don't have to worry about the limitation when you have Diana, and I think that definitely helps here. And there's not going to be one of those moments that you have these debates where somebody goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe that she did this." It's like, well, yeah, no, she's a fucking warrior. She was raised to be a warrior.
I always thought the Batman and the Superman shit was different. I thought when people bitched about the deaths in Man of Steel, it was this: you guys are being nitpicky and nerdy over a dude who is just realizing that he's gonna have to save the fucking world and not knowing how to do it right.
Right.
His first time out. Whereas Batman is 50-year-old angry ass Thomas Wayne at that point and is just shooting, blowing up, and killing every damn thing that gets in his fucking way because he doesn't care. And Alfred is the shaking my head emoji the whole movie. That's what I thought. It was a difference between those two. I didn't think. I mean, I remember people complaining about Man of Steel and all of that bullshit, but I just thought it was dumb and I kind of ignored them. But yeah, I agree that with the freedom of Diana's character. They open up the film with death. So
yeah,
points where I always wonder how people in other countries make films about our country. The fact that she's killing Germans so horribly makes it okay. Which I gotta say, I had a moment of wonder when she's gonna run into Captain America while I was watching this film, because I'm like, they both killing the same people in different universes.
Well, technically, he was killing these Germans' ancestors because he was in World War II. She's technically World War One. So
I just see World Wars.
It was World War One. And I think I get it. That was one of the things. I think that the reason why they did it is because they didn't want to draw the parallels between, Marvel did it first, but I don't know. I'm kind of torn.
Not at this point.
I'm torn in because in some ways with the idea. So if they had done a little bit better job with the villains and the idea of using this gas and things like that, World War One definitely works a lot better. And then you also get the idea of trench warfare, which is definitely particularly horrible. What happened in World War II is also equally as horrible and equally as bad. But trench warfare was also a different type of warfare that was really despair. So I get them going to World War One, but at the same time, when you go with the whole idea of, Ares influencing, war and war to end all wars and all this stuff going on, and really go with a world war, part of me kind of goes, I really think you kind of got to go with World War II. And so I don't know, and that's again this is not me complaining. This is just me I think it works either way. I personally would have said fuck it and done World War II and made them Nazis, and it's gone that way. And just because I think you would really be able to drive it a little bit harder home. Because my next question when the film ends goes, so in a few years they do it all again, what happens then? Because World War II still happens. So what did you
and so, she's just kind of I hope Wonder Woman 2 isn't her fighting in World War II. I feel like need them to jump past that because I just don't care.
No, they got to do present day, and they got to do with her trying to get back. I think what you got to do is have her trying to get back to Themyscira and Paradise Island.
I just don't want to see her going through another war and somehow not running into Captain America at any point. I just like them not hearing about each other, maybe picking up a newspaper.
Well, I mean, it's two different. I mean, it's two different movies. I mean, so you can't.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm stirring up controversy.
I honestly, like I said, that was the thing. Again, it was a small thing, but one of the things that got me is like, yeah, you kind of end the film on a high note. But again, if you know your history, you're like, you guys literally do this again, worse.
Like,
you're literally doing worse.
I can't believe.
And a few years later on, it's like I kind of needed you guys to maybe use World War II if you're going to have this ending here, because you know this doesn't last, right? Like, I don't know. So
it lasts long enough. Damn it! It actually gets way worse.
Right? I'm like.
A lot fucking worse, actually.
Yeah, that's my thing. I was like, so what happens when she learns that 6 million Jews got killed? Like, I'm just, it's one of those things. I'm just like, okay, guys. I
goddamn. Like, I just don't like. I don't want to see World War II. Wonder Woman 2. I don't. And I could see them doing it because it would be WW2, which fits World War II and Wonder Woman 2, and I can see the studio doing some old cheap shit like that.
No, they're not going to do that. Don't do that. You can't. Because, and again, I think the reason why, the way they set this up is basically all tied around that photo that you see in Batman vs. Superman, where it's basically President Diana remembering the events that led up to her taking that photo with Steve and the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And World War War. And I'm like, yeah, so you got to tell the story. So I'm like, I'm fine with that. And that explains her introduction to mankind. It gets the origin out there. It gets everything out there. It's done great. I don't need more Diana in the past. Like we done.
So
we
weird
did.
Parts. It's so weird. Like the Lasso CGI looks fine. Mm-hmm. The CGI of Chris Pine still in that plane looks awful.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Her fight with Lasso was awesome.
I can tell which nights of editing were beer night. I'm watching this movie. Cause it's just like, y'all know y'all can do better. I just saw her fight scene.
Yeah.
In the middle of this film. So why does this scene look like this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, maybe next time
that should look like Red Tails.
Maybe next time they will give her the money that they gave other fucking films. Like when people were trying to tell me, it's like, oh no, it's over $100 million. That's good enough. They don't know. I'm like, they gave Superman $225 million.
The 18th Superman.
There's a reason why we didn't complain about the CG in Superman. It's because they gave that film $225 million, and so anything they fucking needed, they could get. All right? $150 million, I'm sorry, is not enough for what you're trying to do with Wonder Woman. It just isn't, because she's got not the same powers as Superman, but she's up there. You're gonna need to do some of that stuff. And again, you can just see where they just didn't have the same type of budget that they had for some other films. And again, that's not the fault of. I think they do the best they can with what they were given. And considering that they tied one hand behind the back on this one, it's incredible they were able to do what they did. And I give them credit for that.
I think what they did that was incredible was based around the writing team and Patty Jenkins directing.
Absolutely.
As long as they paid for her to come out and had her writers or whoever they hired to write go in, that was fine. The misplacement of funds came when they had some big unnecessary spectacles that they just didn't want to do right, or little spectacles that they thought they could cheaply do.
Right. After
having humongous action scenes that are done beautifully.
Like the way Diana uses her lasso, like you said, is truly amazing, and it adds another element to the fight. And you got a glimpse of it in Batman vs Superman. They really tie that into her fighting style even more in this film, and it's great.
Yep.
Out of 10, what would you give this film, man?
I think it's a strong 8.5, 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what I gave it. I think. Head and shoulders above everything else they've done. Here's the thing. I'm very excited now because even with Suicide Squad, which is not good, but we know that it's not good because the studio heavily got involved in it, and you can tell. You're like, man, I think David Ayer's cut of the film is probably way better than the cut we saw because we know the studio got involved. So at this point, I kind of feel like we're 2-0 here with non-Zack Snyder DC films. I'm really interested in seeing Aquaman now because, again, it's another non-DC, a non-Zack Snyder DC film. Like, I feel not confident, but I feel a lot better about films that don't involve Zack Snyder at this point with DC.
Yeah,
because
I would actually like to see DC. I hope at some point they feel like they have enough funds to start doing characters who aren't necessarily super, but are badass DC characters.
Well, they so far they're supposed to, right? We have Gotham City Sirens. They're looking at doing Nightwing, a Batgirl with Joss Whedon. So
that's what I want. I want Nightwing. Like, yeah. Honestly, I want Red Hood, and I would like a Nightwing film.
So
to see what would happen. Yeah. But that's just me.
I'm interested in seeing what happens, and the other good thing about this film happening here with Patty Jenkins, making Wonder Woman literally carrying the rest of the DC universe on her back here. I'm hoping this gives the studio confidence in their creative teams to do what's necessary. Give them room to breathe. Give them room to do things. Because that's the one thing everybody always brings up, Kevin Feige at Marvel and what they're doing here. But the thing about it is, outside of the overall vision they have for their films and the direction the MCU is going, Kevin Feige still believes in the individual creator's work. Yeah, if the individual creator has something that conflicts with the overall vision of the MCU, it's not going to work out. But we've seen, shit. You saw we just saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and what James Gunn was able to do, and he obviously got a lot of leeway there to tell his story. The Russo brothers get a lot of leeway to tell their story there. Mm-hmm. That's what makes the MCU great here. You find directors, you don't have to get the super well-known directors here. Like, it's clear to me a lot of people don't know how good Patty Jenkins is because people go, oh, well, they gambled with Patty. You do realize a film she directed had a actress who won Best Actress, right? Like that. This is not. She was well known apparently for. I think she got Emmys for The Killing. Like, this is not somebody who doesn't have credentials here. It's like maybe she doesn't have the high name like you get like of Zack Snyder, or the profile of Zack Snyder. But it's not about high profile. It's about high quality. So if you can get
Scott, Zack Snyder, Michael Bay, y'all can shut the fuck up.
These aren't people you need. Like these aren't. Yeah,
you can shut the fuck up about these big name directors that don't be all these big name producers and directors that ain't done shit well in a good shit super in a good damn minute. Okay, I'm over that. Just even back to look at the Deadpool film. Mm-hmm. That was a director that they gave breathing room, and before that, what's really under your belt? We have enough proof to show that there are directors out here who have proven their worth to get a hand at making these bigger budgeted films. Okay? And Patty Jenkins was at the top of this.
Right. She almost did the second Thor film. She almost did the second Thor film.
I mean, her indie film made more money than some of these other directors that came up out of the trenches with good films and ended up making blockbuster summer films. Right. Summer hits. Okay? So I don't understand. I think it is some sexist, chauvinistic shit.
Absolutely
going on with that. Like, why are we giving this woman so much money to make a film? Like, do we really trust her to make a Wonder Woman film? Do we really trust this woman to make a film about a woman that within the Trinity is possibly the strongest? Mm-hmm. But we're constantly like, we don't know if she can handle it all.
Mind you, Joss Whedon literally was known for having TV shows canceled by Fox when Marvel gave him Avengers. All right, like I had somebody coming on Twitter when I was bringing this point up, trying to say, "Well, what do you mean? Like, can you name a few?" I'm like, literally every male director that Marvel has put on hasn't been a big name. Like, we got James Gunn. What was James Gunn doing before Guardians of the Galaxy? Slither?
Look at your boy from Iron Man.
Right.
He was a regular like B-list, C-list actor.
Right.
popping up in films with Vince Vaughn and shit.
Right. Come on, man.
And when I realized that was him, and I was like, oh my god, he's bad as shit.
Yeah,
Directed these. Now we getting Lion King. So I mean,
the Russo brothers literally were doing Community. Like they were doing a TV show, and now they're getting a $250 million budget for Infinity War. Like, come on, guys! You would never ask these questions. You have never asked these questions about. Like, do you know how many people have complained about Edgar Wright not getting Ant-Man? And again, I like Edgar Wright's movies, but Edgar Wright don't do big budget movies like that. He's not a big, huge like director like that. But you're okay when it's a man. Like it's somehow the director having a dick all of a sudden eases your fear and make it less of a gamble. Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm just waiting to see which one, MCU or the DCEU, is gonna scoop up the Coen brothers to direct a movie.
Right.
That's gonna be the weirdest fucking.
I want to say, didn't DC? Did they try?
Did they try to get Coen?
They might have tried to get the Coen brothers. I'm not sure. Maybe they.
Yeah, maybe they did. Hail Caesar at the time. Like
maybe they didn't. I don't know.
God.
It's just come on, man. Like they got the MCU for Captain Marvel. They found their director team, and I can't remember, I can't tell you their names because I don't know who the fuck they are. The guy who the guy who's directing the new it comes out in a month. Spider-Man. They're relaunching Spider-Man Homecoming. Don't know who the fuck I think it's John Watts. It's like you don't know anything John Watts has done, and they're literally trusting. It's not just Marvel. It's three studios. It's Marvel Studios, it's Disney, and it's Sony. All three studios are trusting this man to relaunch Spider-Man, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, superhero of all times. Relaunch this franchise and give them and hopefully get Spider-Man back on the right foot. They gave this to a guy who, I'm telling you right now, you've never seen any of his fucking movies. You don't see any articles about how he's
franchise for sure.
Huh?
Spider-Man is Sony's biggest money. I mean, Spider-Man is Sony's biggest money maker.
Oh no, I mean, but yeah, that's true. But I'm talking about in terms of superheroes. Period. Spider-Man is probably above everything else too. Like just in terms of that, like so you're giving the largest comic book franchise of all time to a guy who I'm telling you right now, ain't none of y'all seen this motherfucker's movies. You ain't never seen anything he's fucking done. And here you have like just come on, get the fuck out of here with this shit, man.
I'm just saying, if we at one time, and y'all can deny that you were a part of this, but we all backed this man. At one time, y'all, we thought Max Landis was gonna be it.
Right.
We did.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We were in. We were.
Oh, actually, wait. No, let's refresh that. Not Max Landis because I forgot about. It was Josh Trank.
Okay.
Josh Trank was the one. Max Landis somehow is the festering underside that came with Josh Trank that we didn't know. But he wrote
the host.
Yeah.
So by association.
Right.
We're
So
like, oh, maybe
we put our hopes in Josh Trank. Then we got that. We found out that he just wasn't up to the task, and then Fantastic Four blew up, and then we got.
What did Max Landis do that made us care about him?
I think he wrote Chronicle. Like it was
That's
him.
What I'm about to say. We did believe in him.
See, here's the thing. I believe more in the director.
We realized he was a pimple.
Right.
Like this what happened. We had belief in him, and then we realized he's a fucking pimple.
Here's the problem. I didn't care about the writer of Chronicle. I like Josh Trank. So Trank was the one I cared about. And then when they're like, well, Max Landis, he wrote Chronicle. We're like, oh, okay, we'll let you live. And then I wish we hadn't. Good God, like I hate this motherfucker so much. So
he's a douche.
He's such a douche. So it's just like
him in person, he is just a goofy. He's a goofy dude.
But going back to Josh Trank, I mean that's a good point though. Think about what Fox did with Josh Trank. They gave this guy who literally had an indie film in Chronicle that blew up, and not just him. So it wasn't just Fox. Fox gave him Fantastic Four reboot. Before that even came out, Disney had given him and hired him. And named him as the person that they wanted to direct the Boba Fett solo film, and then we find out that Josh Trank just was a total shit muffin on the scene of Fantastic Four. They had to bring, I think they had to bring Kingsburg in to finish writing it, to finish directing the film. Disney decided to drop Trank, drop Trank from the Boba Fett movie and just completely we haven't even heard them coming back with the idea of doing that film anymore. Like that film is just completely like we lost an entire solo Boba Fett film because of Josh Trank. But yet and still people still had to ask, they gambled on Patty Jenkins. Somebody who has a known and proven track record, who has a film, who directed Charlize Theron to an Academy Award. She's a gamble, yet and still you had two studios trying to throw money at a kid. Like, I think Max Land at the time, Josh Trank was like, what, 24 or something like that? They tried to throw money at a kid.
Bro.
Huh?
He is 33 now.
33? Yeah. Well, it was years ago. It was like, so he was under 30. He was under 30 when they threw money at him, right? To do this. But he's not a gamble. Even though he turned out to be a huge gamble that didn't pay off. But Patty Jenkins needs to be told that she's a gamble. Like, get the fuck out of here. People are full of shit, yo.
I don't care. She killed it.
Yep,
like, she killed it. And not to take anything away from Gal for her performance here. I like the choreography for the scenes. She was really into the character. And I'm glad that she didn't quit acting. Like, I'm glad that she went ahead and took this role and did this film.
It was interesting, and again, there's a lot of controversy around her, and I'll say that for some other time. But at this point, like I said,
for her being Israeli or whatever,
it's not just that. She does have some views, and whatever. I'll say that for other people who and I don't think there's anything wrong with the people who are like, yeah, I can't fuck with her on this one. So I think they have a valid point there. But anyway, I think it's also interesting the fact that they went with a Wonder Woman who, again, no, she's not a woman of color. I know there's just that thing going around too, like to stop.
Article,
yeah,
what the fuck?
Just stop. No, but I do find it interesting that they picked a Wonder Woman who has an accent, and her accent is very prominent in this film, and they don't try to get rid of that.
All the other actors do her accent,
huh?
They made all the other actors do that. They made old girl from House of Cards do her accent.
Yeah, and I think I appreciate that because that's again something that you normally don't see. You normally told they have to do an American accent or they have to do something get rid of the accent. She keeps her accent. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty pronounced. You hear it and there's no way of not hearing it. And I think that was clearly a choice to do. And I'm saying this also just for the from BVS. I mean, give Zack Snyder credit and WB credit where it deserves. They didn't try to get rid of her accent. They picked an actress that they knew has an accent. I don't even know if she can do another act. Cannot do the acting because it's the same accent she's had since the Fast series. The fact that they picked her and she has an accent and they're leading with Wonder Woman, the biggest female character of ever. Don't you dare! I wanted to smack somebody trying to tell me it was fucking Captain Marvel was a more popular character. Get the fuck out of it with that shit. The most popular female superhero of all time, and she has an accent. I think that's that's a creative decision that I think is important. I think it matters. I mean, that kind of representation along with just her gender, it matters. I think it's important. We always talk about people seeing the representation, being represented on screen, and hearing people that sound like you and that don't have the same, American English accent. I think that's important. I mean, they could have gone a different route and they didn't. So props to them for that. So, yeah, folks. So there you guys have it. That's our review for Wonder Woman. Definitely go see the film. Don't wait. Go see the film. You will enjoy it. You know me, I've been very critical of the DC extended universe, the cinematic universe. But to me, even with its flaws, it's the best film in the DC universe, and that doesn't mean that it's lower quality than the Marvel. No, it's right up there with the other good Marvel films. Like it just is. It's just there. So I think people enjoy.
I thought it was great. I liked all the actors in it.
Yeah,
I think everybody did an amazing job, even if they were slighted by the script or even if scenes weren't handled properly or like certain themes presented weren't handled properly or execution was off some places.
Yeah.
It's way more good here than bad. Like you said, it's 8 out of 5, 8.5 out of 10 at this point. And, DC from here, okay, you got your footing back.
Yeah, you can take it from here. Keep it running.
Just keep it going.
And here's the thing.
I got product here.
I'm not going to hold Justice League against them, because I think that's a bigger feat for them, because you're back to Zack Snyder, and yeah, and again, I can't believe people were being assholes about this, but yeah, him dropping out, at the last minute because of what happened to his daughter, like that is you can't talk like. I wanted Zack Snyder, out of the DCU, but not that way. Like, that's not how I wanted that to happen. And, but yeah, we'll see what happens with Justice League. But if Justice League turns out to still have problems, I'm not going to hold that against them, because, at this point, it has so much to do. It has so much responsibility and so much weight on his shoulders. I'll be waiting to see what Aquaman looks like, and that's a film for me that I think will, again, like what they did with Wonder Woman, it'll be able to stand on its own. It'll be able to be its own movie. You have a director out there, James Wan, that I'll be interested in seeing what he does with that film. So yeah,
I mean, James Wan is a solid director.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they have some solid directors over here at DC. Like, let's not Zack Snyder takes a lot of the hits and a lot of the bullets for the DCU. They're slowly building up. Like, listen, and I understand the idea of, hey, they want a woman for this role, but for this directorship. But listen, Josh Whedon doing a Batgirl film? Oh yeah, nigga, I'm in. Yeah, I mean, like,
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
and he lost some good directors. Like, the initial directors that they started out with for some of these films.
Yeah,
that they keep losing. At least they're picking good directors to replace other directors with. Now they keep losing them, but.
Right. I think Matt Reeves is now doing it. Now I don't know if he's. I can't. That's the other problem. I can't keep up with who they got and who they lost. I'm not sure if Matt Reeves is still directing the Batman film now, but I mean, if he is, Matt Reeves is a great director. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. So. All right, folks. You can find the rest of the reviews on Movie Trailer. MTRNetwork.net. You can search for Movie Trailer Reviews on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music. Get them all there. Get all your feeds there. Check them out. Announcement now. There are not going to be any more tickets for NegroCon. I know it's going to make some people sad. But don't worry. We're looking for another show later on this year. Hopefully we'll be able to announce it in the next couple of weeks or so. Maybe we'll be able to announce it after we do this NegroCon. And we'll definitely be back next year. I already know. A bigger venue, and we'll have more tickets next year for around the same time as Awesome Con next year for NegroCon. So this is not the end. It's just the beginning. So if you didn't get in this year, don't worry about it. We'll be back next year. And there'll be plenty of opportunity to come out and see us and support us. And yeah, folks, go see Wonder Woman this weekend. Until next time, we're out of here. Peace.
Peace.